Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome. Anna, Alchemist of the Arts here. I thought I would do a super quick energy reading with runes for the week ahead. And this is the week beginning off the top of my head, the 5th of February. This Monday, the 5th of February. So let's get into it. I know that many of us are in a deeply transformative time, and there feels like there is a lot of fresh energy coming in that is leading us to make some changes. Now, I know many of us might have had to deal with unexpected changes over the last few months, over the last few years, even feeling like these changes were happening to us and we lost a sense of control over that decision making process, or perhaps there was a lot of reactive decision making that we had to make. And I really feel like we're in the process of seeing this change at this point. And there is a return to inner authority and sovereignty where we begin to make empowered changes that redirect us on our own path, or redirect the intention of our energy. So the activities that we're doing on a daily basis, where we're directing our focus, our physical energy, our presence, our time, where are we investing that? Because it feels like this is where we're making some of these really big changes. And in a lot of ways, like, the brakes are off. This is your time. This is our opportunity. And it's not to say that there's never going to be more opportunities. It's not like now or never, but it could certainly feel like that. You could suddenly be having a bit of a look back, a life review even, and thinking to yourself, where has the time gone? How have I got stuck here? Why have I been doing this thing for such a long time? And, we're approaching this next new moon. February is an especially special time for me personally. Um, in the Nordic tradition, we have Disablot, which honors the Disir, which is our feminine ancestors. And to me, I've just spent the weekend in Glastonbury with my mum, and we've had this incredible time and experience. And pretty much the entire focus of that for us was to go to the sacred springs, to take in some water, to bring water back for me, so I can make paints and all sorts of other amazing things that I use in my art and my processes. So much of that time was spent focused on healing the feminine energy on the ancestral line, reconnecting with it, reclaiming the gifts of that, re-empowering the stories, and understanding and sharing the stories of our feminine ancestors. And it's not to say that the male ancestors in our line aren't important. It's just at this time, we've just had Imbolc celebrating the return of the light. It just feels like all of this energy returning. And so for me, there has been the big focus, and there will be a big focus for the rest of the month on the Disir, working with that feminine energy and my feminine ancestors, but also focusing on the feminine energy of creation and what it is that I'm bringing to life at this time. And I think each of us can ask, if we are going to go through a phase of gestation, a time when we are creating something, so often there is a process associated with that. If I want to create a painting, it could take me months. There is a process connected to that. There is periods of frustration, of anger, sometimes of feeling like I don't know what I'm doing, or self-doubt. It's all a process to the creation of something. There is an end result, but that process is just as vital as the end result. So there is this feeling this week, and in the weeks and months leading on from this time, with where we are within the year, well, we can pull back some of our energy, perhaps make some empowered decisions as to where we're going to make changes, and really redirect the focus of our energy onto things we actually truly want to create in our lives. So there could be something very clear and very specific, maybe a goal, maybe a project, maybe a purpose, maybe a career change, something that physically requires your energy invested into it. And it feels like there is a process connected to that for many of us. For many of us, There are examples, of course, of things that we might want to change that might just require a phone call, and then the rest happens for us. And that is equally as an important decision. For some of us, it could be very much that. And it's getting out of our own way in order to take that step. But this is the thing. All of these processes, whether it is committing to a new path of education, because that feels like a really strong theme for many as well, whether it's committing to this new process and it looks like it's going to be a really long process, or it's literally reaching out and asking somebody to begin a process on your behalf that perhaps you've been delaying for a while. There is this great wind of change that is flowing through our lives, or has the potential to flow through our lives, but it really is up to us to say yes and initiate those changes, to recognize where it's time to initiate those changes, and to put ourselves forwards. So sometimes the physical action is on us, other times the physical action is on another, and we have to reach out, but we have to make the decision. And our energy, the importance of our personal, whether it's mental energy, a thought process, or whether it's physical energy of physically picking up a phone or sending an email, doing something. When I say energy, I mean your literal process of doing something. You know, what is it that you need to do in order to create these changes? Because at this point, especially approaching the new moon, we do have a great deal of power to just, it almost feels like starting again with something. But it feels like the start of a new process. And that's actually really exciting. That's really empowering. It's the beginning of a brand new journey, and it's one that you want to initiate this time. So this could be a really useful time. But if you're not feeling like there is any one thing perhaps screaming out at you that you want to do, but you're perhaps in that feeling of frustration of, this isn't what I want, I'm so fed up of this, maybe take some time, write down, really get to the root of those feelings. I'm a big advocate for journaling practices, but again, this is just a way of communicating with yourself. It, doesn't have to be classified as New Age or woo-woo, whatever. It is a way of self-communicating, of accessing what it is from within us that needs to be expressed, that actually a lot of us find it really hard to express because we might not have had the opportunity, or perhaps we give ourselves a million reasons why we can't. Maybe there are outer reasons where we feel like we can't express these desired changes or the wishes that we wish we could attain. So really taking some time over the course of this week to maybe journal, write down what it is that's making you feel frustrated. If you could do anything in the world, what would you change? If there was one thing in my life right now that I would no longer wish to do, what would it be? And then say, for example, it's like work. Okay, so dig a little bit deeper. What is it about your work that you really don't like anymore? What aspect of it does it that drains your energy, that doesn't bring you satisfaction? Do you feel like it's a waste of your time? Do you feel like you've got gifts that you haven't yet unlocked or shared? Is there something else you would love to do? And maybe it's not, and this is where the process comes in, that you can immediately quit your job and then go and start painting or whatever, but you can decide that you're going to take a small amount of this month's salary and you're going to go and purchase some art supplies. This is just an example because I'm an artist. And you're going to start painting. And you're just going to decide to express yourself. Or maybe it's buying a notebook or a sketchbook, or committing to do a new class, or even researching the available options. Because then you get to the root of these deep and sometimes very well hidden emotions, these reasons why we tell ourselves no. And then we can get to the next step of how we can overcome that and how we can put that frustrated energy into action to use what it's there for. No emotions are necessarily wrong. It's what they It's how we interpret them, it's what they mean to us, and how we attribute meaning to them. If you're feeling frustrated about something, say it's work, and there's something in there that it's trying to express to you, what about it is making you feel frustrated? Is it that you feel like you should be paid more? Maybe you see other people getting promotions or opportunities or things that you want. Then ask yourself, how can I create a change? Maybe it is going and finding a new job. Maybe it's having a conversation with my boss. Maybe it's deciding to move in a new direction that actually allows me to use more of the skills that I have. Maybe it's voluntarily doing a training course online or at the weekend in my spare time that might take me 6 months, but it means in 6 months' time, you are going to be in a completely different place. So there is a process to be initiated this week. And it could be a thought process, like I said earlier, or it could be a physical doing process where you're ready to take action. You just need to give yourself permission to take that action to make some of those changes. And with me, with reference to the Disir and the feminine ancestors, I remind myself of the importance of our female ancestors, of the work that they've put in to raise us, to bring us into existence, to nurture the children often of our lines. And whilst that isn't universally the case, and that's not just women's work, this month for me is a really powerful time to focus on those ancestors that I remember, my grandmothers, and the stories that they told me about their lives. And for me, it's about recognizing the opportunities I have right now that they never had. And that is enough of an inspiration sometimes for me to do that difficult thing, to give myself a yes instead of telling myself 100 reasons why I can't do something. And it pushes me forwards. So I just wanted to share that as, a personal example, but hopefully a relatable example of how we can use these feelings, these energies, and also how we can remember our ancestors, and even further back, perhaps, stories way further back. I'm lucky enough that I do, because I've done some digging and they inspire me. But I also recognize the privilege of the age in which I live and how I want to use that. So that said, I'm going to do some runes. I'm trying really hard to do these a bit quicker because I know sometimes it just takes me a really long time to talk at you for half an hour. So if this is a bit noisy, apologies, but let's get some runes on what can assist us with the week ahead. We've got two and they want to come out together. Ooh. We have Runja and Ivars, and this is literally that. What do we need to end in order to follow a path of joy, of happiness, of fulfillment? How can we initiate these feelings? But also, this ties in beautifully to what I was saying about those challenging emotions being keys to unlock our fulfillment. We shouldn't chase them away. This is what helps us to go through, to recognize the wisdom that's trying to come through those emotions. So to me, Ivars is polarity. It speaks of the entirety of, in Nordic cosmology, it represents Yggdrasil and the nine worlds held upon it. So it literally encompasses, get my words out, encompasses all of existence. All of existence can be held upon this axis. And we look at that in a relatable sense on how we can work with Ivars. Every single emotion or energy or an experience has its polar opposite. So you can ask yourself, if you are feeling that deep frustration, what would bring me the opposite of it? How would I experience that? How would that look for me? How might that feel? And whilst that might not be a definitive answer, it's often not just a bilateral opposite that you walk in a straight line to. There is wisdom within those emotions for you. and it's leading you towards that fulfillment and that happiness. So really and truly dig within those frustrations or what doesn't feel like it's satisfying you in your life right now. Perhaps something really has outgrown its time, its purpose, or its presence within your life. Maybe you've seen or learned what it needed to show you, and it's leading you towards this. But you have to take those steps. You have to claim that. Let's get another one. We've got manas in the reverse. Okay, so this is asking us to look at what no longer feels like us, what makes us no longer feel like ourselves. Perhaps there are situations we have outgrown, and more importantly, where do you feel like you can't express yourself? Where do you feel like you have to hold your truest self back? Maybe you feel like you have more to contribute to your community, to society, to your friends, to your family, to your loved ones. Maybe you have gifts that you would love to share. Maybe, again, this goes back to that idea of career change, because for me, Manas represents mankind, the self, the person that we are being in everyday life, how we show up for our communities, our friends, and our families, and society as a whole, because we are all cogs within a far greater wheel at both a physical and energetic level. Our level of fulfillment, satisfaction, and happiness within our own lives enables us to bring a much greater energy forwards to those around us, to support our communities and the people within our lives. So doing this work, this self-discovery work, isn't selfish. It's actually vital, because as we do it as well, not only do we bring our best energy and our best version of self to those in our life, it also inspires other people to do the same, to have that experience for themselves. So it's really important to recognize that this work is vital, that it does have purpose and it does have value. And again, speaking of, the DC and the female ancestors, of all ancestors, of all the people that are looking up to you, that are watching you, the future generations that are looking up to you and your example right now, who will we being? Where do we feel like we're not our fullest expression of self? How can we shift that? How can we change that? Feels like a really powerful lesson coming through. And I know sometimes people think that, you know, reversal or Merkstave runes can just be really threatening almost. But actually, like I just said with Ivars, there is wisdom to be found in every single polarizing experience. It's just being able to work with it, connect with it, and recognize what it's trying to show us. Let's get one more. What have we got? Ingvars. I love this. Fertile new beginnings. Stepping into something new, planting seeds of a new beginning, of a new future. This is the seeds of that new process. It's the initiatory phase. There is fertile soil waiting for you to decide what it is that you're going to plant within it. So ask yourself, what are you going to plant within it? What do you want to share with the world? What do you want to bring into creation? I love this because I feel like these runes just tied in so beautifully with what I wanted to express today. I don't think that one needs much more explanation. It's just a really beautiful time to be able to begin these changes, to take back some of the control we may feel like had been taken from us, or we feel perhaps it hasn't been available to us. I think that's the best way I can express it. Maybe there is this sense of control for decision making within our lives that we feel like we haven't had, Like it's literally been non-tangible. And now you're going to make some changes. And these don't have to be wild, like I said, life changing decisions overnight. It feels like the initiatory phase of a new journey, of a new process that is going to lead us to a much greater sense of fulfillment. And in the expression of that Manas rune, as I said, it's not just for us, but for all around us and for all we interact with. Because think about it this way: if you're in a job and you truly hate that job, and you conduct yourself in that job with a very heavy heart, and it's just very obvious that you don't want to be there. I'm not saying everybody does this, but I'm just using this as an example. Um, because I know I've worked jobs that I've really and truly loathed, and I've done it with so much love and gratitude because of the role it's played in my life. But when you can, when it takes you to that place, and you were that truly unhappy in the way you're spending your time and your energy, nobody around you is getting the best out of you, the best version of you. You're not being able to bring your best to the table. And if you're feeling like that right now, it's up to us to recognize that feeling and to say, no, I have the power to change this. I have the power to make a new decision, to empower myself, to change my life. Because the reality is, very, very rarely is anyone else coming forwards and saying, you need to do this thing. This is how you're going to do it. This is how it's going to work. Every step of the way is mapped out and it's going to be fine. And that can be really daunting, but we have to trust that we're going to keep moving on that path and keep growing and keep evolving towards that greater vision of what it is that we want to be, or what it is that we want to do, how we want to express ourselves. So I'm going to wrap this up. I hope this helped. I hope it made some kind of sense, but just sending you all my love, and I will see you later in the week. That's it.